Merry Meet friends, Vix here, and today I'd like to talk about books. I love books. I am slightly obsessed with books, and I particularly enjoy it when I can combine my love of books with one of my other interests. So I would like to introduce you to my book scarf. So this is my 2023 year in books, and I'm so excited. I'm so pleased with how it came out. Now I'm going to talk about the crochet side of things first, and then we'll do the book stuff second, so just bear with me. So the basic idea is that you assign a yarn or a colour to each genre of book, and you can be as loose or as whatever with your genres as you please, and then you work double crochet for audiobooks, half treble for ebooks, and treble for physical books. And then the number of rows is based on how many pages are in the book. So 1 row for up to 100 pages, 2 rows for up to 200, and so on. So I cast on 96 stitches, which was based on my age, my husband's age, the kids' ages, and the number of years we'd been married as of January 2023. So this scarf is very representative of our year last year. And it pleased Glitchy Brain because it was divisible by 3. So all of the yarns, they are all 4-ply, hand dyed from my stash. So this was the ultimate stash buster. I didn't have to buy a single extra skein of yarn, and I just chose some favourites that I had. I'm trying to use stash rather than buy new, so it was just really nice, and it was nice to be able to find a project that I could put some of those odd single skeins into in a way that they would really work together nicely. I'm afraid I can't remember where some of them came from. This grey, which represented horror books, that was from My Mama Knits, and I believe it's called Witch's Cape. So that's been a big favourite of mine for a while. I've made like a whole tunic top out of that with some colour work. I love it. This green, which represents sci-fi, I think was a Die Candy yarn from a Stephen King box years ago, but I think it was called Dead Man Walking, based on the Green Mile. And then this dark purple here and the red here are from Rosie's Moments, and the flashes of white are actually glow in the dark, which is another of my obsessions. And the dark purple was historical fiction, and the red was thrillers. So what else have we got in here? I think that's about all I can remember. Oh, this one here. Can you see that? This beauty. It's got a bit of sparkle to it. I'm not sure how well that's picking up. I have absolutely no idea who dyed this skein, where it came from. I think it was sent to me as a gift from a friend, and I have been dying to use it, but I just couldn't find anything to use it in. So to put it in this now, it's just been lovely. And I assigned that to classics, but actually haven't read that many this year. So it's a little bit sparse in there, but it is in there. So I added some tassels just to finish it off. These are the 4 colours from my most read genres. And just, you know, a length of each just attached as a little tassel on the end, and I think it really finishes it off. So it's a really nice size. It's very snuggly and warm. I have worn it a lot already. And I think that's about all I can say about the crochet side of it. If anyone's done anything similar, let me know in the comments. I would love to see some other projects. I'm not planning on doing it again this year, but I have seen some other fun ideas So I'm just keeping a good log of my books, and I'll decide if I want to do something and what I want to do with the information at a later date, perhaps. So, book details, I suppose. So I read 78 books last year. Technically I read 79. I accidentally finished a book on New Year's Eve. I thought it would take me more than a couple of days to read, but it absolutely did not. But I'd already finished and put the tassels on, so I had to leave it off. So 78. It should come as a surprise to absolutely no one that I read the most horror books last year. So horror books, I read 19. Next was thriller at 17. Then non-fiction at 12 and sci-fi at 10. Now I was quite surprised, to be honest, that the thriller number was that high, but I think sometimes I started a book thinking that it was a horror book, and then the more I got through it and then towards the end I was like, actually I don't think this is horror, this is a thriller. So I think if I had kept them as horror, that number would have been higher and the thrillers would have been lower. Surprised that non-fiction and sci-fi are as low as they are as well. But what the scarf did was actually encourage me to read different genres of book and to keep chopping and changing between the genres. You probably can't tell from where you are, but this first stripe, which is all grey, that actually represents 2 books. And you can't tell unless you're up close, because the first few rows are half treble and then the last few are treble. And then it happened again later in the year. Here, this red stripe, that's actually 2 stripes, represents 2 books. And I didn't want to do that too often, so I was really making sure to go from one genre to the next, which had been really nice. But it's nice this year to just be able to read whatever I want to read and not think, oh no, it's the same genre as the last book I read, so I need a buffer in the middle. So of the 78 books, 20 were books that I'd already read. Only 20 out of 78, so I'm quite pleased about that. And then 10 of them were actually books that were released in 2023. Which is quite unusual for me. I don't often get so excited about a book that I have to buy it and immediately read it when it's been released. But that was very exciting. So I'm not going to talk too much about my best books versus my worst books, because when the year started, I had no idea that I was going to be even thinking about starting a YouTube channel. That was an idea that developed towards the end of the year. So to be honest, there are some books that I simply don't remember. But I can tell you that the longest book I read, which was a reread, and it is one of my favourites, it's The Crimson Petal and the White by Michelle Faber. It's an historical fiction, so it's this purple stripe here. And it is, I think, nearly 1,000 pages long. So, but it is a favourite, but because it's so long, I do own it in paperback, but I also have it in Kindle, and I read it on my Kindle, so it was half treble stripe. I've read a fair few novellas and shorter books this year. So the shortest book that I read was either The Gift of the Magi, which again is a reread because I read it every Christmas. I adore it. Or it could have been The Octopus Nest by Sophie Hannah, which is again a reread. Sophie Hannah is one of my all-time favourite authors, and I have actually been lucky enough to meet her, and that was fantastic too. So definitely recommend that if you want to look it up, or Sophie Hannah in general. She is brilliant. And I've been looking at, I have read a lot of older stuff this year. I've been hunting out some some potentially strange things. I did buy Cycle of the Werewolf by Stephen King because I believe it was released the year I was born. So that's a thing I do. The year I was born, the year my husband was born, films and books from those years I collect and I hoard like a little dragon. And then I discovered that there is an entire series of books based on the TV show Murder, She Wrote. And they are a lot of fun because they claim to be written by Jessica Fletcher and a co-author. And I was so excited to discover this. I had to order the first one, but it wasn't very good, I'm afraid. I really enjoyed it and it was a fun story, but the characters that appear in it from the TV show, particularly Jessica Fletcher herself, are just not... They don't fit with the TV series. So yeah, I was quite disappointed in that one actually, and I don't think I will seek out the rest. I also got back into point horror, which has been quite fun. And then, so I had bought myself a couple of Halloween-y ones a couple of years ago. I bought myself a few more this year. I've actually got a bag, like a tote bag from Truffle Shuffle. And I'm trying to collect all of the books that are shown on this tote bag. And then my husband told me that he's pretty sure he's got the whole collection in his loft at his parents' house. So what is that about? I never knew he liked point horror books. So that's been really nice. But he won't buy me many just in case they're in the loft at his parents' house, or his mum's house, I should say. So yeah, it's been really fun. It's been a good year in books. I would definitely say that. Oh, the other thing I thought was interesting was that of my 78 books, it was a pretty fair split between physical books and ebooks. Now ebooks I tend to read on, I have a Kindle, and I tend to just get them through Kindle or Kindle Unlimited, which has been quite good for me this year. So I read 40 physical books, and 18 through Kindle Unlimited. Not sponsored, obviously, but I do find that is quite a fun way to get the books. I'm a bit iffy with how much money I will spend on a Kindle book, just because I feel like I don't physically have it there. And I'm the same with digital download movies. I will only spend up to X amount, and some of the books that I wanted to read this year have been more than that. And because I know I want them in paperback, I've just been a bit iffy about spending the money on them, which sounds really dreadful. I'm really trying hard to get out of that mindset, because just because it's a digital or an electronic book doesn't mean that any less work has gone into it. So I'm really working hard on that this year, but I am very much into physical media. I still have a big DVD collection. I have hundreds of books, and I like to have the things and to be able to hold the things and look at the pretty things. So there's that. I think that's about all I can say today, to be honest. Like I say, I don't want to get too much into the best things I've read, the worst things I've read. Although I will just say, I did reread my two, I think I would call them my two all-time favourite books this year. One of them it's a bit of a strange one. If you know what I like to read, this is not generally it, but it is yarn themed, so I think that helps. It's called The Knitting Circle by Anne Hood, and I find it a very emotional book. Guaranteed I will cry every time I read it, and I do read it every year, with the exception of last year, because The Knitting Circle is about a woman who loses her daughter to meningitis, and it's about how joining a knitting circle and learning to knit and getting to know the other women in the circle helps her to heal from her grief and the relationships that she creates. And it is such a journey. It's incredible. but my daughter was around the age of the daughter in the book, and I couldn't do it for a year or two. I had to not, because it was just too much. But I will say the knitting knowledge in it is not necessarily on point sometimes, but I do recommend it, and I do often buy it for my friends if we're doing book swaps and things. That's the one that I will generally send to everybody. And the other one is called Watch Her Fall by Erin Kelly, and that's another one that I own in physical book and ebook. I actually have a hardback copy because that I had to have as soon as it came out. And Erin Kelly is another of my favourite authors, and somebody that I have met a couple of times actually, and she's so lovely. She has links to my local area, so that's really nice. And I love all her books, but Watch Her Fall in particular, I just loved it. The twists and twists at the end were just fantastic. And Erin actually spent a lot of time researching it. It's based in the ballet world, and there's a lot of nice detail, but it's not so heavy that it detracts, I think, from the story. It just, you know, really draws you in and sucks you into this world, and actually makes me want to go and watch the ballet, to be honest. So definitely recommend, specifically Watch Her Fall, but really anything by Erin Kelly. She's fantastic. And if you ever get the chance to meet her, absolutely go do that too. So I think that's everything for today. Like I say, leave me a comment if you've made anything like this before. I know temperature blankets and scarves, and I've even seen a temperature snake, are like the popular thing to do, but it's never really taken my fancy. So a book scarf, it's my prized possession. It's going to be my favourite thing, I think, for a long, long time. I love it. So if you feel like dropping me a like, I would greatly appreciate that too. And I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!